WWE Clash at the Castle, the company's first big-time pay-per-view in the UK since SummerSlam 92 is coming to you live this Saturday. And we're going to be talking all about the big matches that are set for this card from the top to the bottom. We're going to cover it here. Before that, I do want to give a big plug for our Clash at the Castle live stream, which will be taking place right here on the YouTube channel when the pay-per-view kicks off. We're going to be reacting, having fun, answering your questions like we always do. So be sure to subscribe. Go over to youtube.com/Real Take Wrestling for that. But Clash at the Castle, a lot of big storylines. One big-time main event here with Drew McIntyre versus Roman Reigns that honestly, maybe a month ago, we all thought was going to go a different way, but now it seems to be a little more predictable than people say. I will discuss that, but overall, they're building this up like it is an important pay-per-view. I mean, is it to the level of a WrestleMania? God, no. Is it to a level even of a SummerSlam? No, but honestly, I would say this feels just as important as Money in the Bank. I honestly would think that. And I don't mean the stakes necessarily are that high, but WWE's promotion, the match quality, I think is going to be, at a B+ pay-per-view level, if that makes sense. I think this is going to be definitely a fun pay-per-view to watch, and I can't wait to talk about it. So let's get started here. Talk about the first match here. Rey Mysterio and Edge, two members of the SmackDown 6, teaming up for the first time in years to take on Judgment Day members Finn Balor and, I almost called him Punisher Martinez again, Damian Priest, of course. Damian Priest, Finn Balor versus Edge and Rey Mysterio. The big interesting note here, or the most interesting note, I should say, in this match is what is going to happen with Dominic Mysterio. Now, Dominic Mysterio and Rey, there seems to be a little tension. They definitely teased it this past Monday night on Raw, where Rey asked Dominic to be a part or at his side during the match. And Dominic seemed to be a little upset, even though he didn't show it. He did seem to be a little upset that the fact that Rey picked Edge over him for this match. And we know the story has been that Rhea Ripley has been, tearing Dominic a new one every single week, beating the crap out of him. And yeah, it has not looked good, and Dominic looks weak. And he's gotten beat down by Finn Balor. He's gotten beat down by Damian Priest. And I think that's the storyline here. Rey Mysterio says, I got to call in the big guns. He said, Edge is like a brother to me. He's like family. So that seems like Rey is picking Edge over his son. And I think at the end of the day, we're going to get a moment here where Dominic Mysterio turns on Rey. We've been building up to this for months. We've been building up to the eventual turn of Dominic Mysterio because so far, he as a babyface, he has little to no redeemable qualities. He's lost. He keeps getting beaten up. He looks like a jobber jabroni. I mean, the only way to save his character, he's not as good as we once thought he was in the ring or on promos. The only way you can really make him more interesting now is put him in this father-son feud that was meant to happen at some point. At some point, Dominic and Rey Mysterio were meant to have this feud. And I don't think that it's sustainable for them to move forward as a tag team because we've seen it. It's been nearly 2 years now. As fine as they've been, and Rey's carried a lot of those matches, and the Usos and whatever teams they've been facing has also been carrying a lot of those matches. They gotta make us care about Dom, and the way to do that is have this family feud between himself and Rey, because that's always been the end goal. Eventually, they were going to do this. So, given that, I'm going with Finn Balor and Damian Priest to pick up the win. I also think it's important for the Judgment Day to pick up a win because they're supposed to be this ruthless, take no prisoners type of faction, this dark entity. And at the end of the day, they don't really win. So I want to see them get a big win on a pay-per-view. This is where you do it, and this is where, hey, Finn Balor says to Edge, the old guard of the Judgment Day, this is my yard now. Don't say that. Otherwise, you might have one tribal chief coming your way soon. But I got Finn Balor and Damian Priest picking up the win there. Moving on, we have the Intercontinental Championship match. Walter, not Gunther, versus Sheamus. I'm so hyped. I know there's a lot of people out there who think that, oh, well, this is a predictable finish. We know that Walter is going to pick up the win, and he likely is. Walter will likely win this match. Make no bones about it. But I want anyone out there to sit in front of me and tell me that this is not going to be a fun match. This is Walter versus Sheamus. Two of the heaviest hitters that WWE has, both literally and figuratively. Say what you want about Sheamus. Yes, most of his WWE title reigns have been boring. His promos are at times kind of bland, especially when he's a babyface. When he's healed, are pretty good, in my opinion. But no one can deny that Sheamus, when he wrestles, in the ring, he's one of the best. And he wrestles a style that a lot of other people really do get over with nowadays. Because he wrestles this big, tough, badass style. And I want to see this. I know this isn't technically a dream match, but the more I think about Walter versus Sheamus, the more I want to see it. Imagine how pink Sheamus's chest is going to be after this match. Walter's going to beat lumps out of him, and Sheamus is going to beat the ever-living crap out of Walter. This match is going to slap both figuratively and literally. I cannot wait for this. Walter retains, but in a war, an absolute war with Sheamus. Cannot wait for this one. Moving on, we have the WWE SmackDown Women's World Championship champion, my girl, Liv Morgan, defending against Shayna Baszler. Now, this is where things get interesting. As good as WWE has been booking since Vince McMahon left, I think that one of the worst booked titles, one of the worst booked feuds they have going right now is this feud with Liv Morgan, or just Liv Morgan in general. Think about where she was at Money in the Bank. She had one of the coolest spots in Money in the Bank history to win that match, where she got pushed off the ladder, she ricochets her foot off the rope, knocks Becky off, grabs the briefcase. One of the coolest finishing spots to a Money in the Bank ever. And now we are, 3 months in? And she tapped out to Ronda at that last pay-per-view in a weird way, and Ronda turned heel, obviously. And then she's been losing on TV, or she's been winning, but she hasn't been winning strongly. She's been booked as a weak champion. And Shayna Baszler and herself had a match just recently. So, on one hand, I'm like, why should I care about this? Because WWE's booking does not give me a reason to care about this, genuinely. I love Liv Morgan. She's one of my favorite wrestlers right now. And Shayna Baszler is an absolute monster, which is great. I just don't know if I want to see this match. I'm still optimistic. Like, they're going to go out there and have a great match, or have a really good match. But the hype going into it, I don't think is really there. I do think that they're eventually going to find a way to get this title off of Liv. And eventually the end goal is going to be put it on Ronda. Becky comes back. Becky and Ronda and Mania. We know that that's the end goal. I think it would be interesting along the way to have that Ronda Rousey Shayna Baszler feud. And one of the ways you can do that is by getting the belt off of Liv here. That being said, I don't want that to happen just yet, even though I know it's the eventuality that must happen. Although you could also argue that Becky and Ronda don't need the belt at Mania. But we'll see. Given that, I do think that if you want to eventually get to a Ronda-Shayna Baszler feud, you gotta have the belt on Shayna Baszler sooner rather than later. I'll go with Shayna Baszler just for that. Also, I want to see the Shayna Baszler versus Ronda Rousey match. That's spectacle. That is spectacle. I like their styles. I want to see how they clash. Like, this is two of the 4 horsewomen of UFC in wrestling. Like, I want to see it. But I don't know. Definitely mixed feelings on this one. 100% mixed feelings on this one, because I don't also want to see Liv lose the belt. But I got Shayna winning this one. Moving on, we have our next bout, and it is for nothing. It is a 6-woman tag team match. On one hand, you have Asuka, you have Alexa Bliss, and you have Bianca Belair all teaming up to take on the team of Bayley, Io Sky, and Dakota Kai. I almost called her Io Shirai again, but these name changes aren't for me. Anyway, Asuka, Alexa Bliss, and Bianca Belair taking on Dakota Kai, Io Sky, and Bayley. One of the bigger things I'm looking forward to in this match, honestly, is the crowd just chanting, "Hey, hey, Bayley, woo, ha! I want to know if you be my girl." Like, because it's a UK crowd. They're in Cardiff. I don't care what anyone says. The best crowds are over in the UK. Like, they are the best crowds. They got the most energy. They don't stop. They'll sing. They'll come up with the best chants. They'll come up with the longest chants. They'll come up with the most creative chants, the most fun chants. They will make even a bad wrestling show seem fun. And I cannot wait to see the ovation that all 6 of these competitors get in this match. This is going to be a good one. This is going to be a really good one, because you have 6 people here, all of whom are great, all of whom can work, all of whom are some of the best in the business. And on top of that, they built this feud up very well. You've had the tension between Bayley and Bianca Belair building up since Bayley returned at SummerSlam. She brought Dakota Sky and Io Sky by her side as well. And ever since then, Asuka and Alexa Bliss have been doing these run-ins. And just recently, this past week on Monday Night Raw, we saw that Io Sky and Dakota Kai lost in that finals for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship because of interference from Bianca Belair, Alexa Bliss, and Asuka. So there is that built-in story. It works. I'm invested in it, and I genuinely believe, from a storyline perspective, that these 6 women want to go out there and fight each other. They don't want to wrestle. They want to fight. There is genuine animosity here, and I want that in my wrestling. Let's go. Can't wait for it. Oh, and here's my thing. I think the babyfaces have been getting a one up on them too much. I'm going with Bayley. I'm going with Io Sky, and I'm going with Dakota Kai to get the victory here. They're mad because they just got jobbed out for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. Bayley's mad because she's still not getting her title match. Let's go. Let's give the heels a win here and make them look like a strong faction. Like, this is Dakota Kai, Io Sky, and Bayley are supposed to be dominating the women's division moving forward, right? That's the end goal when you put them all in this one big faction. Let's have that be the case. Let's get them the victory here, and we'll see where it goes from there. I'm excited, though. Next match, we have Matt Riddle taking on Seth freaking Rollins. Okay. So this is the match we were supposed to see at SummerSlam. Didn't happen because they kayfabed an injury for Riddle. He was, in fact, not injured. They just decided to move the match back. Seth Rollins has been attacking Riddle. These two have been fighting in parking lots this past Monday night on Raw. They've been fighting. They fought at SummerSlam. They fought backstage multiple times. They did that thing on Raw a few weeks ago where the pyro went off and then they were just fighting a gorilla. So they made this out to be a match where Seth Rollins and Matt Riddle do not like each other. You could even say hate each other. And they booked this as a singles match. I think that this would be way more compelling if they ended up putting a stipulation on this. They haven't yet, and it doesn't look like, honestly, they will. Although now that I'm looking at it, it looks like Extreme Rules is the next pay-per-view. So, given what I know about WWE, and look, things have changed, I could very well see this match ending in a weird schmoz finish or whatever, because it's a singles match, and then building to an unsanctioned or whatever street fight at Extreme Rules. That seems to be the likely scenario here. What I would want to have happen is these two going out there having a great match, and Seth freaking Rollins comes out with a victory. Because, look, we love Seth Rollins. He has had some of the best matches in WWE this entire year. You look at his feud with Cody. He's had two all-time classics in that feud. You look at his match at Royal Rumble with Roman Reigns. You look at the work he did leading into Money in the Bank. Like, this guy has carried a big spotlight on the company, I want to say, over the past year. And he's lost nearly every single time. This is the time where you finally give him a win. You give him a win at a big pay-per-view. That's what I think should happen. And if they end up doing a rematch at Extreme Rules, he should win that too. Because people need to be reminded, Seth Rollins isn't just a guy who can go out there and I'm Seth Rollins and I'm cool. I'm just weird. He doesn't need to just be that guy. He doesn't just need to be the guy who has great matches. He needs to be the guy who wins great matches. That's who Seth Rollins should be. Riddle, we'll see. But I definitely got Rollins in this. I want Rollins in this one. I'm going to go with Rollins in this one. He should win. And finally, by God, finally, the main event for the undisputed WWE Universal Heavyweight Championship of the world. You have Drew McIntyre, the challenger from Scotland, coming into the UK to challenge Roman Reigns for those titles. Okay, so we've seen a lot of things happen between these two. Now, Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre feuded multiple times in the past few years. They had a feud going into Mania 35. They had a feud, I believe, sometime during the pandemic. Honestly, tried to block a lot of the pandemic wrestling out, if I'm being honest with you. So we're going to ignore that. But these two we've seen these two wrestle for a while, and I think that had they not unified the titles into like this one entity and have every match Roman is in be like a winner-take-all scenario, had that not been the case, I very well could have seen Drew win the Universal Championship at this pay-per-view in front of his UK fans, having that big moment that he never got to have in front of the fans. Because, you know, COVID obviously shut down everything. He won the Royal Rumble prior to everything being shut down. And he was going to have this huge moment defeating Brock Lesnar in the main event of WrestleMania. And it happened in front of literally nobody on a tape delay for 2 weeks. So the universe essentially robbed him of that moment. And then he comes back the next year. He has his match for the WWE Championship with Bobby Lashley that he ends up losing, even in front of like 30,000 fans at Mania. And ever since then, he hasn't had that moment. And so many people, including myself, thought that this was the perfect time for Drew to have that big crowning moment. And it could kind of be shades of SummerSlam 92, where the British Bulldog came out victorious in that great Intercontinental Championship match with Bret Hart. And it doesn't seem like that's going to happen because Roman Reigns is about to celebrate 2 years as champion. He's already celebrated 500 days, but he's about to celebrate 2 years as WWE Universal Champion. And I don't think his reign is going to end anytime soon. I think if there's got to be a guy to beat him, Drew's one of those guys. Like for me, I see there being a select few people who could be the person to beat Roman Reigns for that title. Drew's one of those guys. Braun Breaker's one of those guys. Cody Rhodes is one of those guys. Interesting one here, considering where he's at right now. I think Sami Zayn could be one of those guys. So, Jey Uso, Solo Sikoa as well. I mean, like I know, like we can talk about that in a separate video, and I probably will one day because I think that's an interesting topic. But at the end of the day, I don't think that WWE has built this up to like they have not built this up like Roman's titles are in peril, and maybe that's the swerve, and maybe that's what they're gonna go at. But they have given me no reason to believe that is going to be the case. I think Roman retains, and that's where we go. It would be really interesting, though, if Drew didn't, or if Drew won. It would be really interesting. It would be a great moment. And I'll tell you what, I tune in on Raw on Monday because you have to. You have to at that point, right? But we'll see. And I definitely expect shenanigans with the with the bloodline here, Usos and Sami Zayn. The honorary Us, Sami Zayn, who's doing some amazing work, by the way. I love his segments with the bloodline. They're some of the best things on SmackDown. So I got Roman Reigns in this one, and hopefully we'll see Drew win. I really want to see Drew win. I just don't think that they have set it up to happen that way, but we'll see. That's my WWE Clash at the Castle. Did I say Clash at the Champions? Whatever. Clash at the Castle review, or preview, I should say. We'll have a review up hopefully sometime that weekend as well. It's going to be a busy weekend. I'm going to be in Schaumburg for not Chicago. Remember AEW, that pay-per-view is not in Chicago. That is false advertising. But I'm going to be in Chicago for that weekend for All Out. It's going to be a fun time. If you're going to be there, let me know. I might see you at the event or whatever, but I'll also be doing the live stream for this. Knock on wood on that hotel Wi-Fi, but we'll see what happens. We'll do a review. We got plenty of stuff in the works here. But y'all let me know what you guys think. Who do you guys think is going to come out victorious at the Clash at the Castle? Where did I get this right? Where did I get this wrong? Let me know in the comment section below. Hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. And if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever the hell you're listening to this today, be sure to leave a 5-star review. Hit that follow button. Go over to youtube.com/Real Take Wrestling and subscribe, people. Until next time, keep it real.